The scanner flashed red 3 times before anyone moved. Lieutenant Sarah Chin watched the biometric readings climb past every safety threshold programmed into the diplomatic security grid. The numbers didn't make sense. Neural activity at 400%. Adrenal output equivalent to 30 human bodies. Skeletal density increasing in real time. The child was 8 years old. She stood in the center of the scanning chamber, hands at her sides, breathing steady. Her name was Mira. She'd arrived on the colony ship Prometheus 6 months ago with 200 other human refugees. Standard processing. Standard clearances. Nothing in her file suggested anything beyond ordinary trauma from the Mars evacuation. Sarah's earpiece crackled. "Hold position. Queen Velthara is inbound." The words turned her blood cold. The Valkyrie matriarch didn't personally oversee security screenings. She ruled 14 star systems from a throne ship that could glass entire planets. If she was coming here, to this processing station, something had gone catastrophically wrong. Sarah stepped forward, keeping her movements deliberate. "Mira, I need you to stay very still." The child's eyes tracked toward her. They were brown, normal human. But the scanner disagreed. It tagged those eyes as belonging to something that shouldn't exist in any biological database across known space. "It's starting," Mira whispered. The floor vibrated. Not from the station's gravity generators. From footsteps. Sarah had trained for first contact scenarios with 43 species. She'd served in the border conflicts. She'd survived the breach wars. None of it prepared her for the presence that entered the chamber. Queen Velthara stood 9 feet tall, her chitinous armor gleaming like polished obsidian. Her arms moved with liquid precision, each hand capable of crushing steel. Her species had conquered worlds before humans learned to forge bronze. Behind her, 12 royal guards filled the doorway, weapons charged but lowered. Sarah didn't salute. Protocol with the Valkyrie demanded stillness and direct eye contact. She met the Queen's multifaceted gaze and waited. "Your scanner has detected an anomaly," Velthara said. Her voice resonated through translation implants, carrying harmonics that human ears couldn't fully process. "You will explain." "Unknown biological signature," Sarah replied. "Human presenting, but readings indicate." Mira moved. Not toward the door. Not away from the guards. She shifted her weight 6 inches to the left, and the scanner's threat assessment spiked to critical. Every guard raised their weapons. Plasma coils hummed to life. Targeting lasers painted red dots across Myra's small frame. Sarah's hand went to her sidearm, but she didn't draw. Years of training screamed at her to establish a perimeter, call for backup, neutralize the threat. But Mira was a child. A terrified child whose medical scans were impossible. "Stand down," Velthara commanded. The guards didn't lower their weapons, but their fingers moved away from triggers. The Queen stepped closer to the scanning chamber, her massive form somehow graceful. "What are you?" she asked Mira directly. The child's hands trembled. "I don't know. They did things to us on Mars. Before the evacuation, there were labs. People in white coats. They said we were special. They said we'd save humanity." Sarah's stomach dropped. She'd read the classified reports about Mars. The genetic programs. The desperate attempts to create super soldiers as the colonies fell. Most of the projects had been shut down. Most of the subjects had been terminated. Most. "Show me," Velthara said. It wasn't a request. Mira looked at Sarah, and, in that moment, she looked like what she was. A frightened child who didn't understand what was happening to her body. Who didn't ask to be made into a weapon. "It's okay," Sarah heard herself say. "We won't hurt you." She couldn't promise that. She had no authority here. The Queen could order Myra's execution and be legally justified. Enhanced humans violated the genetic purity accord signed after the clone rebellions. The law was absolute. But Sarah said it anyway. Mira closed her eyes. The scanner shrieked warnings. Her bone density doubled. Muscle fibers multiplied beneath her skin. She grew 3 inches in 5 seconds, her clothes straining at the seams. One of the guards fired. The plasma bolt moved at 6,000 meters per second. Myra's hand blurred. She caught the superheated energy with her bare palm, fingers closing around it like catching a thrown ball. The plasma dissipated harmlessly through her skin. The chamber went silent. Veltharo's antenna stalk stood rigid. In Velcari body language, it meant absolute shock. Sarah had never seen the Queen surprised by anything. The guard who had fired stepped forward, mandibles clicking in their species' version of rage. Abomination. It violates. Your Queen did not give you permission to speak, Veltharo said quietly. The guard froze. Myra's hand still glowed with residual plasma energy. She stared at her palm like it belonged to someone else. Tears streaked down her face, but she made no sound. How many are like you? The Queen asked. 16 of us made it onto the Prometheus, Mira whispered. The others are in different processing centers. They're scared. They don't know what's happening. Sarah's tactical mind raced through scenarios. 16 enhanced children scattered across the colony, each one potentially powerful enough to be classified as a strategic weapon. The political implications would shatter the fragile human-Velcari alliance. Wars had started over less. Veltharo extended one clawed hand toward Mira. The child flinched but held her ground. You will come with me, the Queen said. No. The word came from Sarah's mouth before she could stop it. Every weapon in the room turned toward her. She just contradicted the Velcari matriarch in front of her personal guard. The penalty was death. No trial. No appeal. Just immediate execution. But Sarah didn't move. She stood between Mira and the Queen, her hand still resting on her undrawn sidearm. A useless gesture. Her weapon couldn't penetrate Velcari armor. She'd be dead before she cleared leather. Veltharo studied her for a long moment. You would die for this child. I would die before I let her be used as a political tool, Sarah said. She's a victim, not a threat. The scanner disagrees with your assessment. The scanner measures power, not intent. The Queen's laugh was like grinding stone. You humans, so fragile, so brief, yet you stand in front of weapons and speak of intent. She lowered her hand. Very well, Lieutenant. You have convinced me. Sarah's breath caught. She'd expected vaporization, not agreement. But understand this, Veltharo continued. These children are unstable, unpredictable, dangerous. If they lose control, millions could die. I will not permit that risk. Then, help us stabilize them, Sarah said. Your medical technology is centuries ahead of ours. If anyone can fix what was done to them, it's the Velcari. The Queen's antenna stalks tilted thoughtfully. Behind her, the guard shifted uncomfortably. Sarah had just proposed a joint operation between species who'd barely maintained peace for a decade. Myra's voice cut through the tension. There's something else. Something they didn't tell us. Everyone turned to look at her. The scientists on Mars. Before the evacuation, they said we weren't just weapons. Her hands clenched into fists. They said we were keys, that we could open something. But they never told us what. The scanner began printing again. New readings. New impossibilities. Sarah looked at the data and felt the universe shift beneath her feet. Whatever Mira and the others were, they were just the beginning. The medical wing of Station Theta 7 hadn't been designed for cross-species emergency protocols. Sarah watched technicians scramble to integrate Valkyrie diagnostic equipment with human medical databases, while Mira sat on an examination table, her legs dangling over the edge. The child had shrunk back to her normal size, but the scanner readings remained volatile. Dr. Amelia Park ran a handheld analyzer over Myra's arm for the 4th time. "This shouldn't be possible," she muttered. "Her cellular structure is rewriting itself every 6 minutes. If this were a normal human, she'd be dead from systemic shock." "She's not normal," Sarah said quietly. "None of them are." "No kidding." Amelia pulled up a holographic display. "Look at this. Her DNA contains sequences that don't exist in any human genome. We're talking base pairs that can't form naturally. Someone built this into her." Queen Velthora stood near the observation window, 2 of her guards flanking her. She'd been silent since entering the medical bay, but Sarah could see her antenna stalks tracking every movement, processing information at speeds human brains couldn't match. "The other children," the Queen said without turning. "Where are they now?" Sarah pulled up her datapad. "Processing stations across the outer rim. Station Kepler 9 has 4. Station Aurora Prime has 3. The rest are scattered between New Geneva and the Titan outpost. Gather them." "Immediately. That will require authorization from the Colonial Council," Sarah pointed out. "Moving enhanced humans without proper clearance violates. I am aware of your laws, Lieutenant." Velthora finally turned to face her. "I am also aware that laws mean nothing when faced with extinction-level threats." The word hung in the air like a blade. "Extinction?" Amelia's hands froze over her instruments. "What are you talking about?" Velthora moved to the examination table. She towered over Mira, but when she spoke, her voice carried something Sarah had never heard from the alien queen before. "Concern." "Child. The scientists who altered you. Did they mention the architects?" Myra's eyes widened. "Yes. They said we were made to find what the architects left behind. They said it was humanity's only chance." Sarah felt ice crawl down her spine. The architects were a myth, a legend whispered among deep space explorers. An ancient civilization that had supposedly seeded the galaxy with technology millions of years before any current species evolved. No credible evidence had ever been found. "The architects are not a legend," Velthora said, reading Sarah's expression. "They existed. My people found their ruins 4,000 years ago. We studied their technology. We learned from it. And we learned to fear them." She reached into a compartment in her armor and withdrew a small crystalline object. It pulsed with inner light, cycling through colors that hurt to look at directly. "This is an archive node, 1 of 7 remaining in Valkyrie possession. It contains a fragment of architect knowledge. Maps, coordinates, warnings." Velthora held the crystal toward Mira. "Touch it." "Your Majesty, we don't know what that will do," Sarah interjected. "Yes, we do. That is why I am here." Mira reached out slowly. Her fingers brushed the crystal's surface. The room exploded with light. Sarah's vision went white. She heard screaming, but couldn't tell if it was Mira or the station's emergency alarms. When her eyes adjusted, she saw Mira standing on the examination table, the crystal fused to her palm. Holographic projections filled the air around her, showing star systems Sarah didn't recognize. "Oh God," Amelia whispered. "She's interfacing with it. Directly. No neural link required." The projection shifted, zooming through space at impossible speeds. They stopped at a region of void between galaxies. Empty space. Nothing there except the Crucible, Velthora said. "The architect's final creation." Sarah stared at the massive structure floating in the hologram. It was the size of a solar system, constructed from materials that seemed to shift between states of matter. Geometric patterns covered its surface, pulsing with energy signatures that made the station's most powerful reactors look like candles. "What is it?" Sarah asked. "A weapon, a prison, a gateway. Perhaps all three." The Queen's voice was grim. "The architects built it before they vanished. They left no instructions, no warnings. Just this structure waiting." Myra's voice came out distant, echoing. "It's calling. All of us can hear it. The other children. It wants us to open it." "No." Velthara moved with sudden speed, grabbing Myra's wrist. The crystal's connection broke, and the hologram collapsed. Mira slumped forward, unconscious. The Queen caught her before she could fall. Sarah's hand had moved to her weapon without conscious thought. She forced herself to relax as Velthara gently placed Mira back on the examination table. "The scientists on Mars were fools," the Queen said. "They thought they were creating weapons to fight their wars. Instead, they created keys to unlock something that should remain sealed forever." "How do you know?" Sarah demanded. "How do you know what's inside?" "Because my people tried to open it once. 3,000 years ago. An entire fleet of our finest ships. 60,000 of the Valkyrie Empire's best warriors." Velthara's antenna stalks drooped. "None returned. We received only one transmission before contact was lost. A single word, repeated until the signal died." "What word?" "Harvest." Amelia's instruments began shrieking. She rushed to Myra's side, checking vitals. "Her body temperature is spiking. Neural activity off the charts. She's having some kind of seizure." "It's not a seizure," Velthara said. "She's resonating. The crucible knows she touched the archive. It's trying to pull her consciousness toward it. How do we stop it?" Sarah moved to the other side of the table. "You don't. Not unless you want to kill her. The connection is hardwired into whatever those scientists did to her DNA." The Queen looked at Sarah with something approaching respect. "But you can redirect it, if you're brave enough." "Explain." "The archive nodes work in pairs. One seeks, one anchors. I have the seeking node. Somewhere in Valkyrie space, there is an anchor. If we can get Mira to it, we can stabilize her connection. Teach her to control it." "And the other children?" "The same. All of them. Or they will burn themselves out trying to answer the Crucible's call." Sarah looked down at Myra's convulsing form. The child's hands clutched at empty air, her lips moving soundlessly. Making a decision that could start a war or save millions was supposed to be above her pay grade. But no one else was here to make it. "How long do we have?" "Hours. Perhaps days. The resonance will grow stronger. Eventually, it will overwhelm her completely." Velthara straightened to her full height. "I am returning to my throne ship. You will bring the child and meet me there. I will send coordinates for the other children to be collected. The Colonial Council will never approve. Then, don't ask them, Lieutenant." The Queen moved toward the door. "You humans have a saying. Better to beg forgiveness than ask permission. I suggest you embrace it." The guards followed her out, leaving Sarah and Amelia alone with Mira. "This is insane," Amelia said. "We can't just hand over 16 human children to an alien empire. Even if that empire is technically our ally. We're not handing them over. We're accepting help." Sarah began pulling up communication channels. "Give me a secure line to every processing station on this list. Authorization code Shin 7 Delta 9. That's your emergency override code. You'll lose your commission if you use it without proper cause. Preventing 16 children from dying seems like proper cause to me." The communications officer's face appeared on the screen. "Lieutenant, we're receiving multiple priority alerts. The Valkyrie throne ship just entered orbit. They're not responding to standard hails. I know. I authorized it. Sarah took a breath. Send word to all station commanders. I'm invoking Protocol 17. Emergency medical evacuation of all refugee children matching genetic profile Delta 7. Transport to coordinates I'm transmitting now. Ma'am, Protocol 17 requires council approval. Note my objection in the log. Then, carry out the order. The officer hesitated, then nodded. Yes, ma'am. The screen went dark. Amelia stared at her. You just committed career suicide. Maybe? Sarah looked down at Mira again. The child's seizures had lessened, but her vital signs remained critical. But I didn't sign up to let kids die because of bureaucracy. What happens when the council finds out? They court-martial me. Probably throw me in a detention facility. Maybe execute me for treason. Sarah managed a tired smile. But Mira and the others will be alive. I can live with that trade. Myra's eyes snapped open. They glowed with the same pulsing light as the archive node. When she spoke, her voice carried harmonics that rattled the medical equipment. The Crucible knows you're trying to help us. It's angry. Her head turned toward Sarah with mechanical precision. It wants us now. It's changing the resonance, making it stronger. How much time do we have? Sarah asked. 3 days. Maybe 4. Then, it won't matter if we want to go or not. We'll go anyway. All of us. Across every star system. We'll walk into space if we have to. The Crucible will guide us home. The light faded from her eyes. Mira slumped back unconscious. Amelia checked her readings. She's stable. For now. But if what she said is true, it is. Sarah was already moving toward the door. I need to talk to the Queen. If we only have days to save them, we need to move faster than standard protocol allows. How much faster? Recklessly faster. She ran through the station corridors, ignoring startled looks from other personnel. The Valkyrie guards stood at attention near their transport ship's airlock. They didn't stop her as she approached. Queen Velthora waited inside the transport, her massive form somehow fitting into a space designed for smaller species. You've made your decision. The Crucible is accelerating its pull. We have 3 days. Then we have less than that. The resonance will grow exponentially. The Queen touched a control panel. I am ordering my fleet to the Archive's location. We leave within the hour. I'm coming with you. You have no authority to. I invoke Protocol 17. I'm already facing execution. Might as well make it count. Sarah met the Queen's multifaceted gaze. Besides, you'll need someone who speaks human to coordinate with the children. They're terrified. They need a familiar face. Velthora considered this. You are either very brave or very foolish, Lieutenant. Can I be both? The Queen's laugh rumbled through the transport. Very well. But understand what you're committing to. If we fail, those children will become weapons for whatever sleeps inside the Crucible. Your people will blame mine. My people will demand retaliation. The war that follows will burn entire systems. Then, we don't fail. Simple. I admire that. Velthora activated the ship's engines. Prepare for departure. And, Lieutenant, you may want to say goodbye to anyone you care about. Where we're going, there are no guarantees of return. Sarah thought about her family back on Earth. Her sister. Her nephew. People she hadn't seen in years because of her service. She pulled out her personal communicator and recorded a quick message. Just in case. Then, she strapped into the acceleration couch and waited for the universe to change forever. The Valkyrie throne ship Eternal Dominion stretched 3 kilometers from bow to stern, its hull covered in the chitinous armor that made their vessels nearly indestructible. Sarah had seen images of these massive warships, but, standing on the observation deck while it hung in orbit above Station Theta 7 made her feel impossibly small. Mira sat beside her in a specialized medical chair, monitoring equipment tracking her vitals. The other children were being brought aboard as fast as transport ships could carry them. So far, 6 had arrived. They sat together in a cluster, holding hands, their faces reflecting the same mixture of fear and confusion. "How are you feeling?" Sarah asked Mira. "Like something's pulling my brain apart." The child's hands trembled. "It's getting louder. The crucible. I can almost understand what it's saying." "What is it saying?" "Come home. Come home and wake us. We've been sleeping so long." Myra's eyes filled with tears. "It sounds lonely, Lieutenant. Like it's been waiting forever for someone to answer." Sarah wanted to offer comfort, but what could she say? That everything would be fine? That they'd fix this? She didn't know if either was true. A Valkyrie technician approached, her movements respectful. "Lieutenant Chen, the Queen requests your presence in the command chamber." Sarah followed her through corridors that seemed designed to make humans feel insignificant. Everything was built to Valkyrie scale. Massive doors, high ceilings, control panels positioned for beings twice her height. The few human liaison officers aboard moved through the space like children in a giant's house. The command chamber took Sarah's breath away. Holographic displays filled the air, showing fleet positions, star charts, and real-time data from across Valkyrie space. Queen Velthara stood at the center of it all, her 4 arms moving across control interfaces with practiced ease. "Lieutenant, we have a problem." Sarah's stomach sank. "What kind of problem?" "The Human Colonial Council has declared you a rogue agent. They've issued orders for your arrest and the immediate return of all enhanced children to human custody." Velthara pulled up a communication transcript. "They believe I've abducted you and the children as part of some elaborate scheme." "That's insane." "Is it?" "From their perspective, their military officer has taken 16 genetically modified humans aboard an alien warship without permission. It looks like a coup. Can you convince them otherwise?" "I could. But that would require revealing the truth about the Crucible, about the architects, about the threat we face." The Queen's antenna stalks drooped. "That conversation would take weeks. Negotiations, treaties, committees studying the data. We have days." Sarah paced, mind racing. "What if we just ignore them? Keep going? Then, the colonial fleet will attempt to intercept us. Your people have 43 warships in this sector. Not enough to defeat the Eternal Dominion, but enough to start a war neither of us wants. Damned if we do, damned if we don't." An accurate assessment. Velthara turned to face her fully. "There is another option. You could return to human custody. Face their justice." "I would continue to the archive with the children." "Absolutely not. Those kids need someone they can trust." "Then, prepare for complications, Lieutenant. Because your colonial fleet just dropped out of faster-than-light travel. They're moving to intercept." The holographic display updated, showing 27 human warships forming a blockade between the Eternal Dominion and the Archive's coordinates. Sarah recognized the flagship, the Indomitable, commanded by Admiral Marcus Webb, a man who'd rather start a war than admit he was wrong. "Hail them," Sarah said. "Let me talk to Webb. You have no authority. I know him. He served with my father. If anyone can convince him to stand down, it's me." Velthara considered this, then gestured to her communications officer. "Establish a channel." Admiral Webb's face appeared on the main display. He looked older than Sarah remembered, his gray hair thinning, deep lines etched around his eyes. But his expression held the same stubborn certainty she'd seen throughout her career. "Lieutenant Chen, you're under arrest for violation of the Genetic Purity Accords, unauthorized military action, and conspiracy with a foreign power. Admiral, with respect, you don't understand what's happening here. I understand perfectly. You've handed 16 human children over to the Valkyrie. God knows what they'll do to them. They're saving them, sir. These children were designed to interface with ancient technology. Right now, that technology is calling them. If we don't stabilize them, they'll die. So you say. I have scientists who disagree. They believe the Valkyrie are using those children as test subjects for weapons research." Sarah wanted to scream. That's paranoid nonsense. Is it? The Valkyrie have been our allies for exactly 12 years. 12 years after centuries of isolation. We know almost nothing about their real capabilities or intentions. I know their queen is trying to prevent a catastrophe. You've known her for less than a day. Webb shot back. I'm ordering you to power down your weapons and prepare to transfer custody of all human personnel to my ships. Belferoth stepped into view of the communication pickup. Admiral Webb. I am Queen Veltheroth of the Valkyrie Sovereignty. Lieutenant Chin is aboard my vessel as a volunteer consultant. The children are receiving medical treatment at her request. No laws have been broken. Your Majesty. Webb's tone turned diplomatic but remained firm. We appreciate your assistance. However, those children are human citizens. They fall under human jurisdiction. They fall under whatever jurisdiction keeps them alive, Admiral. Your laws and my laws both acknowledge medical necessity supersedes standard protocol. Then, transfer them to our medical facilities. We have the finest doctors in the colonial fleet. Your doctors lack the technology to stabilize architect-level genetic modifications. Mine do not. The Queen's voice hardened. I am not your enemy, Admiral. But I will not allow children to die because of bureaucratic pride. Webb's jaw clenched. Sarah could see him weighing his options. Start a shooting war over 16 kids, or back down and face political consequences. The answer came from an unexpected source. Admiral. One of Webb's officers appeared beside him on the screen. We're detecting a massive energy spike. Source unknown. It's coming from. The communication cut off. Every display in the command chamber lit up with warnings. Sarah turned to see a rift opening in space itself, reality tearing like fabric. Through the gap, she saw something that made her mind refuse to process what her eyes reported. The crucible. It shouldn't have been visible from this distance. According to Veltheroth's data, it was positioned between galaxies, millions of light years away. But there it was, filling the view screen like a malevolent god reaching across the cosmos. It's pulling them, Veltheroth said. The children. The resonance has reached critical threshold. Sarah ran back toward the medical bay. She burst through the doors to find all 16 children standing in perfect unison, their eyes glowing with that terrible light. They moved as one toward the nearest airlock. Stop them! Sarah shouted. Valkyrie guards moved to intercept, but the children didn't fight. They simply walked forward, and anyone who tried to grab them found their hands passing through empty air. The children were phasing out of normal space, becoming more idea than matter. Sarah threw herself in front of the lead child, a boy named Thomas, who couldn't have been more than 7. Thomas, listen to me. You don't want to do this. His voice came out layered with dozens of harmonics. We have to go home. The sleepers are waking. They need us to open the door. What sleepers? What door? The ones who dreamed us into being. The ones who planted the seeds of life across the galaxy and waited for those seeds to grow into keys. Thomas's hand passed through Sarah's chest. She felt cold spread through her body, a sensation of being unmade at the molecular level. Then, Velthora was there, the archive node blazing in her hand. She pressed it against Thomas's forehead, and the child screamed. Not in pain, in revelation. The glow faded from his eyes. He collapsed into Sarah's arms, sobbing like the terrified child he truly was. "What did you do?" Sarah demanded. "Showed him the truth. What the architects really were. What the crucible contains." The queen moved to the next child, repeating the process. Each one collapsed, crying, freed from whatever had possessed them. When all 16 were unconscious, Velthora stood in the center of the medical bay, her armor cracked from the energy discharge. "Now they know. Now they understand what waits for them if they open that structure. What waits for them? Extinction. Not just for humanity. Not just for the Valkyrie. For all life in this galaxy. The architects didn't vanish. They transcended. Became something beyond physical form. And they're hungry to return." Sarah's legs gave out. She sat heavily on the floor, Thomas still cradled in her arms. "So what do? We teach these children to resist the call. We show them how to lock the door instead of opening it. And we pray to whatever gods either of our species believe in that we're strong enough to succeed." The rift in space sealed itself. The crucible vanished from view. But Sarah could still feel it out there, waiting in the dark between stars, waiting for the keys to come home. The archive stood in a chamber so cold that Sarah's breath crystallized before it left her mouth. Valkyrie technology kept her alive in the sub-zero temperature, but nothing could stop the feeling of wrongness that permeated this place. They'd traveled for 2 days through Valkyrie space, jumping through networks of wormholes that bent reality in uncomfortable ways. Admiral Webb and the colonial fleet had followed, maintaining a cautious distance. Velthora had convinced them to observe rather than interfere, but Sarah knew Webb was waiting for any excuse to intervene. The 16 children stood in a circle around the archive's central pillar, their hands linked. Mira served as their focal point, her connection to the crucible stronger than the others. Valkyrie technicians monitored readouts that Sarah couldn't begin to understand. "We're going to teach you to control your connection," Velthora explained to the children. Her voice echoed in the vast chamber. "The crucible wants you to be keys. You will learn to be locks instead." "How?" Mira asked. Her voice sounded small in this place. "By understanding what you truly are. The scientists on Mars thought they were creating enhanced humans. They were partly correct, but they were also creating something the architects designed millions of years ago, a biological override system for the Crucible's containment protocols." Sarah felt sick. "You're saying the architects predicted humanity? That they knew we'd evolve? Not humanity specifically, but they knew intelligent life would arise from the genetic patterns they seeded across the galaxy. They built the Crucible as a failsafe. If they ever needed to return to physical form, they would need permission from the species they'd helped create." "Permission?" Sarah's voice rose. "They're trying to force their way out using children." "No. They're calling to those children because the children carry the correct genetic sequences." "But the final choice remains with the keys themselves. Open the door or keep it locked." Velthora approached Mira, kneeling to look her in the eye. "These scientists on Mars, they tried to create weapons. Instead, they recreated guardians. You and your friends are the only beings in this galaxy capable of keeping the architects contained." Myra's hand shook. "I'm 8 years old. I can't. I don't know how to. You're learning." The queen placed one clawed hand on Myra's shoulder with surprising gentleness. "And you're not alone." The central pillar began to glow. Sarah saw patterns emerge in its surface, geometric shapes that hurt to perceive directly. The children gasped as information flooded into their minds. "What's happening?" Sarah moved closer. The archive is teaching them, showing them how the Crucible's containment works, how to reinforce the locks, how to resist the call. Velthora watched the readouts carefully. This will hurt. They need to experience the Crucible's full pressure to learn how to withstand it. Sarah wanted to stop it, wanted to pull the children away from whatever was happening. But she forced herself to stay still. Trust the process. Trust that Velthora knew what she was doing. Mira screamed. The sound cut through Sarah's resolve like a knife. She rushed forward, but Valkyrie guards blocked her path. Let them finish, the queen commanded. She's in pain. She's in training. There's a difference. All 16 children were screaming now, their bodies rigid as energy poured through them. The archive's light grew blinding. Sarah shielded her eyes but refused to look away. Then, as suddenly as it started, the light faded. The children collapsed in a heap, breathing hard but conscious. Mira looked up at Sarah with tears streaming down her face, but something in her expression had changed. She looked older, more aware. I saw it, Mira whispered. All of it. What they are. What they want. What happens if we let them out? Tell me. The architects got bored with physical existence. They wanted to experience reality as pure thought, pure energy. So they uploaded their consciousness into the Crucible and locked their bodies in stasis. But consciousness without physical form, it drives you insane. They've been going crazy for millions of years, trapped between states of being. Myra's voice shook. If they come back, they'll remake the galaxy. Force every living thing into the same transcended state. Not because they're evil, because they're lonely and they've forgotten what choice means. Sarah pulled Mira into a hug. The child clung to her, sobbing. Can you resist them? Velthora asked quietly. I think so. We all can. But it's hard. So hard. Mira pulled back, wiping her eyes. They're not going to stop calling. Every day for the rest of our lives, we'll hear them. Feel them pulling at us. Then we make sure you're never alone. That you always have support. Sarah looked at the queen. Both our species will help. Right. Velthora's antenna stalks rose in agreement. The Valkyrie will provide resources. Technology. Training. These children will have everything they need to maintain the locks. And if we fail? One of the other children asked, a girl named Arya. If one of us gives in, then you stop them. Together. The queen gestured at the circle they'd formed. That's why there are 16 of you. Redundancy. If one weakens, the others compensate. The architects designed it as a democratic system. Majority rules. So we just live with this. Forever? Thomas's voice cracked. Yes. And I know that's unfair. I know you didn't ask for this burden. Velthora stood to her full height. But you are what you are. The galaxy needs you to be strong. Sarah wanted to argue. Wanted to rage at the injustice of children being turned into eternal guardians against ancient gods. But what good would anger do? Instead, she made a decision. I'm staying with them. All of them. She looked at each child in turn. You need someone who understands both human and Valkyrie culture. Someone who can advocate for you. I'll resign my commission if I have to, but I'm not leaving you alone with this. Mira grabbed her hand. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. I'm going to be the strictest guardian you've ever had. Homework. Curfews. The whole deal. Sarah managed to smile. Just because you're saving the galaxy doesn't mean you get to skip being kids. For the first time since this nightmare began, the children laughed. The sound echoed through the ancient chamber, warm and human and alive. Velthora's communicator chirped. She listened for a moment, then nodded. Admiral Webb is requesting permission to land a diplomatic shuttle. He wants to discuss long-term arrangements for the children. Let him come, Sarah said. It's time we all work together on this. Agreed. As the Queen moved to arrange the meeting, Sarah sat with the children, answering their questions about what came next. They were scared, traumatized, carrying impossible weight. But they were also resilient, brave, human in all the ways that mattered. The Crucible would keep calling. The architects would keep pushing. But these 16 children, supported by 2 species who'd learned to look past their differences, would keep the door locked. It wasn't a happy ending. It wasn't even a complete ending. But it was hope. And in a galaxy full of ancient threats and cosmic horrors, hope was enough. 6 months later, Sarah stood in the observation lounge of what had become known as the Guardian Station, a joint human-Valkyrie facility dedicated to supporting and training the 16 children. Outside the viewport, ships from both species moved in coordinated patterns, a sight that would have been impossible a year ago. Mira sat at a nearby table, working through a mathematics problem, while simultaneously maintaining a mental connection to the Crucible's containment systems. It had become routine for her. For all of them. They'd learned to partition their minds, living normal lives, while a small part of their consciousness remained forever on guard duty. "How are the integration studies going?" Admiral Webb asked. He'd become a surprising ally once he understood the true nature of the threat. His fleet now worked alongside Valkyrie warships, establishing a perimeter around this sector of space. "Better than expected," Sarah reported. "The children are adapting. Their psychological evaluations show improvement. We're seeing fewer nightmares, less anxiety. And their ability to maintain the locks? Stronger every day. They practice together, reinforce each other. It's working." Webb nodded slowly. "The Colonial Council is still concerned. Some members think we're too dependent on Valkyrie technology. Some members need to get over their prejudice and accept reality," Sarah said bluntly. "We're in this together now, whether anyone likes it or not." "I know." "I agree with you." He looked out at the mixed fleet. "It's just, change is hard. Especially when it's forced on us by circumstances beyond our control. Everything worth doing is hard, sir." "True." He smiled slightly. "You've changed too, Lieutenant. More confident. More willing to speak your mind. I died the day I invoked Protocol 17. Everything since then has been borrowed time. Makes it easier to say what needs saying." The court-martial had been a formality. The Council couldn't publicly punish someone who'd helped prevent galactic extinction. Instead, they quietly promoted her to commander and assigned her permanent oversight of the Guardian program. It meant she'd never command a warship, never have a normal military career. But watching Mira solve equations while maintaining mental locks on eldritch horrors from beyond time felt more important than any traditional posting. Queen Velthra entered the lounge, her movements graceful despite her size. "Commander Chun." "Admiral Webb. We have a situation." Sarah's hand moved to her sidearm. "What kind of situation?" "The Crucible is testing them. Harder than before. More aggressive." Velthra pulled up a holographic display showing energy readings. "It's learned their defenses. It's probing for weaknesses." "Can they hold?" Webb asked. "For now. But the architects are patient. They have millions of years of experience. Our children have months." Sarah looked at Mira, who'd stopped working and was staring at nothing, her eyes unfocused. The other children throughout the station had likely assumed the same posture, minds locked in battle on a level normal humans couldn't perceive. "What do they need?" Sarah asked. "More training. Better tools. And something we haven't given them yet." Velthara's antenna stalks drooped. Hope for the future. Right now, they see their lives as an endless burden. A sacrifice. We need to show them they can be more than guardians. How do we do that? Let them be children. Let them have dreams. Ambitions. Lives beyond this station. The Queen moved to the viewport, looking out at the stars. My species made that mistake once. We had guardians of our own, tasked with protecting ancient Valkyrie technology. We isolated them, made them into tools. They became bitter, resentful. Eventually, they abandoned their posts. What happened? The technology they were guarding activated. Killed 6 million Valkyrie before we could shut it down. Velthara turned to face Sarah. I will not repeat that mistake. These children need to know their lives have value beyond their duty. Sarah thought about Myra's dreams of becoming an artist. Thomas wanted to be a pilot. Arya talked about studying xenobiology. All of them had aspirations beyond their role as cosmic guardians. We give them both, Sarah said. They maintain the locks, but they also live. Go to school. Make friends. Have careers. Fall in love. Whatever they want. Can they do both? Webb sounded skeptical. They'll have to. Because anything else is imprisonment. Sarah walked over to Myra's table. The child's focus was returning, the immediate crisis passing. Hey. You okay? Mira nodded slowly. It was testing a new approach. Tried to make us feel guilty for keeping them locked up. Made us see visions of what the galaxy could be if they were free to help us. What did you see? Beautiful things. Cities made of light. Technology that could cure any disease. Perfect understanding between all species. Myra's hand shook slightly. But I also saw what came after. How they'd force everyone to transcend. Take away everyone's choice in the name of perfect unity. It was wrong. You did the right thing. I know. Doesn't make it easier. Sarah pulled up a chair beside her. What if I told you that you could still become an artist? That we could arrange for you to study at the Academy of Creative Arts on New Geneva? Myra's eyes widened. Really? But how? I can't leave the station. Not with the locks to maintain. The locks are mental. Location doesn't matter. You could paint on New Geneva while simultaneously holding the crucible sealed. Sarah glanced at Velthara, who nodded confirmation. All 16 of you can pursue whatever dreams you want. You'll have support teams. Regular checkups. But you can live. For a moment, Mira just stared. Then she burst into tears, but this time they were tears of relief. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for not forgetting we're people. Sarah hugged her tightly. I could never forget that. Over the next weeks, plans were made. The children would disperse to different colonies and worlds, pursuing their individual dreams while maintaining their collective responsibility. They'd check in regularly, gather for training sessions, and always remain connected through the mental network they'd built. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't even ideal. But it was life. And life, Sarah had learned, was about finding joy in impossible circumstances. 12 years later, Sarah watched Myra's art exhibition opening on New Geneva. The now 20-year-old woman had become renowned across human space for paintings that somehow captured the texture of dreams and the weight of duty in equal measure. Critics didn't know that every brushstroke was created while she simultaneously maintained mental locks on an ancient prison between galaxies. They just knew her work was extraordinary. She's done well, Velthara said. The queen had aged too, though it showed differently on her chitinous form. Slower movements. More deliberate speech. But the same sharp intelligence in her multifaceted eyes. They all have, Sarah agreed. Thomas was a transport pilot. Arya ran a xenobiology research lab. All 16 had found their paths. And every day, they kept the door locked. The crucible still called. Sometimes louder, sometimes quieter, but never silent. The architects raged against their prison, testing every crack, seeking any weakness. But the keys remained strong. "Do you ever regret it?" Velthora asked quietly. "Your choice that day on Station Theta 7? Sarah thought about her career that never was. The relationships she'd sacrificed. The normal life she traded for this strange existence between species and stars. "Not even once," she said. Mira approached them, radiant in a formal dress that managed to look both elegant and comfortable. "Commander Chun, Your Majesty, thank you for coming. Wouldn't miss it," Sarah said. "Your mother would have been proud. She would have thought I was insane." "Art? That's your career choice?" Mira laughed. "But I think she'd understand eventually." They talked about the exhibition, about Myra's next project, about life. Normal conversation. The kind of interaction that shouldn't be possible between a human and a Valkyrie queen and a woman who was simultaneously an artist and a guardian against cosmic horror. But it was possible. Because they'd chosen to make it possible. Later, as Sarah prepared to leave, Mira pulled her aside. "It got louder today," she said quietly. "During the opening. The Crucible. It showed me things again. Promises of peace. Unity. Evolution beyond physical limits. And I told it to shut up. I have a gallery showing. It can wait." Mira smiled. "I think it was surprised. Like it forgot we have lives beyond standing guard. Good. Keep surprising it. I will. We all will." Mira hugged her. "Thank you for showing us how." Sarah returned to the Guardian station alone, taking the long route through several wormhole jumps that gave her time to think. 12 years of maintaining this balance. 12 years of watching children become adults while carrying impossible weight. 12 years of proving that duty and life didn't have to be mutually exclusive. The station's command center welcomed her back with familiar efficiency. Reports waited for review. Training schedules needed approval. Maintenance requests required signatures. Admiral Webb had retired 5 years ago. His replacement, Admiral Yuki Tanaka, was young and brilliant and had grown up hearing stories of the day humanity and the Valkyrie united against a common threat. She understood that maintaining that unity was the real victory. "Commander," Tanaka's voice came through the comm. "We're receiving unusual readings from Sector 7. The same energy signatures we detected before the Crucible's last major test." Sarah felt her pulse quicken. "Alert the Guardians. All 16. I want them on standby." "Already done. They're reporting readiness." Of course they were. They'd been ready for 12 years. Sarah pulled up the tactical display, watching energy patterns swirl in deep space. The Crucible was moving again. Testing. Probing. Searching for any crack in their defenses. But it wouldn't find one. Because 16 children who'd been turned into weapons had instead become guardians. Because 2 species who'd barely trusted each other had learned to work together. Because one lieutenant had decided that following orders mattered less than doing what was right. "Steady," Sarah commanded. "Hold the line." Across the galaxy, 16 minds united in purpose. 16 wills aligned against an ancient intelligence that had forgotten what determination meant. The Crucible pushed. The Guardians pushed back. The locks held. And in a small art gallery on New Geneva, Myra's latest painting depicted a door, beautiful, intricate, and forever closed. The title read simply, "Not today. Not today. Not tomorrow. Not ever." Because humanity had learned something the architects never understood. that the greatest strength came not from transcendence or power, but from choosing to stand together, from protecting not just survival, but the right to live freely. The crucible would keep calling. For decades. For centuries. Perhaps forever. But the answer would always be the same. Not today. And, as Sarah looked out at the stars, watching ships from two species patrol together in perfect synchronization, she allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. They'd won. Not through violence. Not through submission. But through stubborn, defiant hope. The galaxy was safe. And 16 Guardians lived their lives while keeping it that way. That was enough. That was everything.